You're listening to the Faith and Other Oddities podcast, brought to you by the Raven Creek Social Club, where we talk about faith and other oddities. For questions, comments, or to be part of the conversation, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where you can find us at Raven Creek SC. Now for your hosts, Emily Dixon and Nathan Underwood.
Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Faith and Other Oddities, the show where Emily and I read the Bible, talk about it, record it when we can, and try to get it on the internet in a timely fashion.
Hey,
Uh,
sometimes that takes, traversing some almost insurmountable obstacles.
yeah, one of the things that really appealed to me about podcasting versus blogging, because I used to try to do more blogging, but I am one of those people. I'm a decent writer, but I'm a terrible editor,
Yeah,
and so you'd wind up with some sentences.
that were,
Sometimes not.
yeah, yeah.
So, but there is still quite a bit of behind the scenes stuff that goes on, even with podcasting, that you really
hmm
have to watch out for. And I'm much better at editing audio than I am text.
Right.
So,
Well, with text, I read what I want to be there, not what's actually there, where audio kind of confronts you with actually what's there. So, and
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
in case anyone notices there's like a change in my backdrop, that's part of the obstacles we overcome. The trees leafed out at my house, and so I have no signal. And so everyone listening, just pray they get the fiber optic to my house quicker than projected. I have conduit run. We're just waiting for the line to actually make its way down the country road
hmm
to our
hmm
location. So,
yeah. I get that. You're on Lake Region. I'm still waiting on OEC to get to my neighborhood where we are. So, if you're listening, OEC, please, please, please.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it's not bad here. I mean, it's AT&T, but I feel like I'm getting charged a bit much for my internet. So if you're listening, AT&T, you know what
well,
you're doing.
almost everything we've done up to this point has been hotspotted off my cell phone.
Mhm.
So,
Which is pretty impressive. I mean, for a hotspot. So
yeah, but
we've been working with what we've got.
today it said no dice, not going to work, not going to cooperate. So I just packed up and moved venues, and we're going to try to make it work. And the other fun thing we're dealing with this week was I hurt my eye this past week. And so I'm going to try to read my notes, and I'm going to try to be coherent. And if you see me making funny faces, it's because the eye decided to like flare. So I'm just warning everybody up front.
Yeah, yeah, and I would like to apologize about last week not having a show. Mickey and I were out of town again, so we just were not able to record. I mean, we were going to try to do 2 episodes, but then I was sick, so I was not very interactive. I
Well,
mean, it was just, and you didn't have
I
the
was
notes ahead, and because you had plenty of stuff going on in your end,
right. We
but
always have plenty of stuff.
we should be pretty much back on schedule now for a while, unless something else comes
S-
up that's
s-
unexpected.
Yeah, just
Uh,
completely unforeseen.
so thank you everyone for your patience. I'm excited to be back on it. I still have my allergies decided to get me again this week. I don't know. It's frustrating, and
Well, all of this just shows how committed we are, right? That's,
sure,
I mean,
sure. I
not
mean,
that we're
I think,
disorganized or that,
yeah, and I think we've missed 4 episodes in what, almost 3 years or something like
right?
that. So
I think we're doing pretty
I,
good.
I think we are doing pretty good. And another minor note for our YouTube fans out there. The reason I figured out the reason I look so excessively red is not just that it's summer, but so this is you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear all this, but uh, Mickey and I had to have our shower redone because were plumbing issues. Well, the closet's right next to the bathroom, and we also had a door moved to extend the shower while we had everything torn out. Just get it all done at once, right? But so because of the demo dust, all of my clothes are on the studio couch over here, and Mickey's clothes are all on our living room couch. I know she loves me telling the world this, but I'll find out if she actually listens in a few months.
It's just part of
Anyhow,
a remodel. It's just what
yeah,
happens.
it is, and so our house has been a mess all summer. It was supposed to be a 5-day remodel. It wound up being closer to 5 weeks, but I can't actually get to the blinds to open them right now because the clothes are piled so high. So I haven't had any natural light, and so I'm just getting like colored by the reflection of the monitor. Um, and so that's why I've looked so
And you've got that
colorful.
hideous wall color that just doesn't know what color it wants to be. So, but we won't go off on my dislike of agreeable
Yeah,
gray.
it's either agreeable gray or accessible beige. I'm not sure which one.
It doesn't know. That's the point of these colors. They don't know what color they are.
They do make rooms look much bigger though.
See,
That's
deceptive.
the
They're even
see that's the point of the color is it makes the room look bigger, and it also is made to go with any furniture decor really.
for people who can't commit. No, and I should note this was the color it was when y'all bought it.
Yeah,
So
we moved in with this color. We've not done any painting except for some touch ups here that we had color matched with, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm guessing our real estate saga is not why people are here to listen.
this is true. Yeah. And so we should move on. So yeah, we're still in First Kings. We just wrapped up chapter 2 the last time we were with you. Chapter 2 ended with the statement, so the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. Now this is kind of the signal that this overlap that had been going on between the reign of David and the reign of Solomon, it's over now.
Uh,
So there's what happens now is solely Solomon's responsibility. And this is because all the loose ends from David's reign, they've kind of been tied up. And there were a lot because we had Adoniah who had tried to take the throne. We had Joab, the general who had defied David and killed Absalom, Amasa, and Abner for people who like alliteration. And the blood guilt that threatened Solomon's reign. But then we had Abathar the priest, whose support of Adoniah could have, hurt Solomon's credibility as king. And then Shimei, who had cursed David and had been very vocal of his support for the house of Saul. And he also could have posed a threat for Solomon. And now that these threats are taken care of, Solomon and his reign, they can move forward. And we can see the chapter 3 really begins with the story of Solomon and what he's going to do. And unfortunately, the chapter 3 opens up with a kind of ominous note because the very first verse says Solomon made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. He took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he finished building his own house and the house of the Lord. So imagine you're an ancient Israelite. Your very existence as a nation is founded on these origin stories of coming out of Egypt, coming out of that oppression and slavery imposed on you by Pharaoh and all the abuses that your ancestors endured. You don't read this passage or this verse passively.
mhm.
There's a knee jerk reaction that comes along with anything to do with Egypt. So even though we kind of read it and go, okay, he got married and on to the rest of the story. I mean, it almost seems like this really superfluous detail in what's to follow because it doesn't really have anything to do with what follows. But this is a little bit of foreshadowing and a little bit of hint that things aren't going to be as great as they possibly could. And this is again, a lot of people think that Judges, First, Second Samuel, and First and Second Kings were probably written by the same people. So we should expect this kind of foreshadowing from our writer. These little hints to be paying attention, and this is why it's so good to do these in-depth book studies because now we're familiar with the writer's style. And we know that when he drops these things into the text, that we should be paying attention. The other thing that this verse did was it made me realize something I missed in the previous chapter because there's always more than what any one teacher is teaching you,
Oh
and
yeah.
the Bible really is a gold mine that you have to sift through and find all the little nuggets. So when Solomon banished Abathar, we talked about how that was the fulfillment of Samuel's prophecy and how God had said that, basically he was done with the house of Eli, that they were no longer going to serve as his high priest. And in that case, it was a totally, totally positive thing. We want Egypt out of rulership, whether we're talking the religious rule of the priest or we're talking the king. And, this prophecy is in 1 Samuel 3:10 through 14, if anybody wants to look it up. But Samuel also warned in chapter 8, verses 10 through 16, of the dangers a king poses. And he says specifically in chapter 1 Samuel 8, verse 17, you will be his slave. This is what a king is going to do for you. You're going to become a slave. And we should never forget that all of Solomon's reign is both informed by prophecy, it's fulfilling prophecy, and is enacted prophecy. So you cannot distinguish anything from Solomon's actions from something that has been foretold or something that's going to foreshadow what will come. So there's this really prophetic element, even as we're reading what seem to be just narratives.
Mm.
And so we need to be paying attention to how prophecy interplays with Solomon's reign. And I'm gonna try to bring that out as we go through. Now, of course, the rabbis, they do their normal thing. They want to try to excuse what Solomon's doing here. They're going to say that marrying Pharaoh's daughter could have happened for some really good reasons. One solution was that he's solidifying his position as king. And if we're going strictly by logistical, political protocol, this is a very wise thing for Solomon to do, because now we're not just saying that, he has a wife. We're saying that Egypt, the nation, and the leadership of Egypt actually recognizes the validity and the legitimacy of Israel as a nation. Because it's only if they view Israel as a legitimate nation that is the king is worthy to marry one of their princesses.
That's actually one of the things that I was thinking about just now was that the it does say it does kind of put Israel on the map, so to speak, in as far as public relations
Mhm,
you know, international, what do they call that, foreign relations.
mhm.
That's the
A
couldn't think of the word there, but yeah, that really does put them up there because at the time Egypt was one of the larger
major player.
one of the larger powers in the world.
And really would continue to be so for several centuries following this. And we're actually going to see as we get further into Kings that Egypt is one of the people that Israel is might turn to for support, because they're such a powerful army. And they've always been, well, at least in the ancient world, they were always a very powerful entity to be dealt with. And so the question was, do you trust Egypt or do you trust God?
Hmm.
Now, the second way that the rabbis tried to make this seem a little better. Because remember, Solomon's the golden child. Nobody wants Solomon to do something wrong, because he is the fulfillment. He is really what established David as king. Without the son on the throne, we just have another warlord or judge. We don't have a king. It's not until we have that succession passed off to an heir, a blood heir, that we can now have a dynasty or a Davidic kingdom. So they want to make Solomon to be very noble. So another motivation that they attribute to this is that Solomon was trying to convert Pharaoh's daughter, and that she would be able to influence all of Egypt to be converted to Judaism. Uh, You know, um, I doubt it. I mean, let's just be real. Uh, Judaism has never been about proselytizing. It is open to people who are willing to accept the tenets of Judaism. They're willing to accept converts, but they do not actively, and even today, Juda- uh, Judaism is not a religion that actively seeks to convert people to its religion.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for me to see that as actually happening. And then, of course, there's some debate on whether or not it was permissible for Solomon to marry an Egyptian, because I believe it's Deuteronomy, the Egyptian convert isn't allowed into the temple until I believe it's the third generation. So even if she had converted, they still wouldn't be able to join in any kind of temple worship at that point in time. Now, one bit of interesting lore.
Well, I
Go ahead.
mean,